You will not believe how long this moment has been quietly building beneath the sands of time. For decades, whispers of a dream echoed through dusty storage rooms where priceless fragments of ancient life slept in crates, unseen by any living eye. You stand now at the threshold of that dream, where an entire civilization rises again, piece by piece, in shimmering gallery light. But before we begin tonight's video, if you really enjoy these history stories, please like the video and subscribe. Let us know in the comments what you really like in our videos and what you would improve. Your comments mean a lot to us. They help us to keep the work on. Now, let us start together. You step across an open plaza of pale stone, warm from the sun, and the world seems to stretch wide and shimmering. Towering before you is the geometric face of the Grand Egyptian Museum, glass and limestone arranged like a modern echo of ancient architecture. Its entrance feels almost ceremonial. As you walk, the sound of distant chatter fades beneath a soothing hush, the kind a great library might keep. The air is cooler here, flowing across your skin like a gentle river breeze. You sense history waiting for you, not stacked in dusty piles, but arranged with intention. This museum is not simply a building. It is the beating heart of 5,000 years of memory. Egypt has finally given its stories a cathedral. Inside, a vast atrium opens like a hidden canyon. Light pours from skylights high above, casting golden stripes across polished floors. And there, rising from the center of the hall, you see him, Ramesses II. 11 meters tall, he gazes over the museum with a calm, eternal stare, as if judging each visitor with ancient patience. Somewhere in your mind, a small voice whispers that you probably would not survive a debate with him. Best not try. This museum, despite its quiet stillness now, cost more than $1 billion through decades of planning, cooperation, and imagination. Egypt worked with distant partners, most notably Japan's International Cooperation Agency, forging alliances the pharaohs themselves might have respected. Together, they shaped a new sanctuary for artifacts that once languished in cramped corners of older museums. You pause a moment, imagining the delicate papyrus-scented halls of the Egyptian Museum downtown, crowded and overflowing like a suitcase someone refused to admit was full. There simply was no more space. Here, everything breathes. The curators envisioned this place around the year 2000, sketching a museum modern enough to welcome tomorrow while rooted deeply in the past. Architects dreamed of triangular angles, wide avenues, and a setting that would allow the desert horizon to flirt with the edges of the building. It would allow sunlight to dance over hieroglyphic carvings, just as it once did within temples along the Nile. Construction would not be easy. The sands of politics shifted, and the winds of disease interrupted work. Yet still, piece by piece, stone by stone, the museum rose. Here you stand now, proof that patience is sometimes rewarded, even if it takes 20 years to see the first exhibit labels printed. You take a slow step deeper. The air smells faintly of stone, of desert, of carefully filtered climate controls working overtime. The hum of machines behind the walls reminds you that history must be protected from heat, humidity, and the occasional tourist who thinks touching a sarcophagus lid, it's a good idea. It is not. Look up. The ceiling panels tilt like wings, and light splinters into shifting patterns across the floor. It feels like the architecture itself is guiding you forward. Wide corridors stretch away, each promising secret treasures. Some halls remain unopened, the anticipation heavy. Other galleries already gleam with polished display cases, golden masks, amulets carved like falcons, strings of beads that once rested against royal skin. All of this, every shard of pottery, every funerary figurine belongs to one civilization. That is what makes the Grand Egyptian Museum unique. Nowhere else on earth holds so many memories of a single people. Nowhere else can you trace life from prehistoric clay tools through the mighty old kingdom, across the storms of foreign invasion, right into Cleopatra's final sigh. You pause near a balcony overlooking the central atrium. Tourists murmur below like gentle bees. Their camera flashes blink like tiny stars, reflected in the polished face of Rameses. The statue is heavy, 83 tons, and it traveled 25 kilometers to reach this hall. If it could talk, it would likely complain about the traffic. Above you, banners ripple, featuring stylized lotus flowers, shimmering gold masks, and the stern stare of pharaohs. The museum around you feels alive, breathing through ventilation ducts and shimmering screens. It is a blending of ancient and futuristic, like papyrus scrolling across a digital tablet. As you continue walking, guided by subtle signage and soft lighting, your footsteps find a rhythm against the marble. Behind display cases, tiny artifacts glow beneath careful lights. Every bead, every chipped carving once lived in someone's hand. And somewhere inside you, a quiet reverence takes root. You are not here merely to look. You are here to remember. You move deeper into the museum, the soft hum of air systems and the faint echo of footsteps drifting around you like distant waves. The light grows warmer here, touched with honey tones that settle over ancient stone. Your path curves gently, and the reason for this colossal place begins to unfold as if whispered by the artifacts themselves. For decades, Egypt's tourism industry has swelled like the yearly Nile flood, carrying curious travelers from every corner of the world. Buses, tours, cameras, and eager voices pressed into old galleries, filling narrow corridors until even statues seemed to sigh with exhaustion. Museums that once felt spacious became crowded wardrobes packed tight with relics. The older Egyptian museum downtown, once the proud guardian of pharaonic memory, had corridors so packed that artifacts hid behind artifacts. Imagine trying to admire a golden mask while 5 tourists bump elbows beside you and someone insists on taking a picture with flash. That cramped feeling created urgency. Egypt needed space, not simply to display treasures, but to breathe its story. Something vast, something luminous, something worthy of the pharaohs who built tombs large enough to move mountains. And so, the Grand Egyptian Museum was envisioned as a sanctuary, where even the smallest artifact would stand beneath its own halo of light. This new home stretches across 300,000 square meters, an expanse so huge you could wander for hours without seeing the same corner twice. You glance around now, feeling the size in the quiet echoes of your footsteps. The sheer volume of objects here is staggering. More than 100,000 pieces, some never seen by any living soul until this moment. That is like opening a treasure chest and realizing the inside is larger than your house. Egypt wanted a museum that could keep up with a world that accelerates like a racing chariot. Digital exhibition systems, climate-controlled vaults, conservation labs that hum like beehives, and guided pathways designed to flow like the ancient river. Everything here is meant to protect the delicate spirit of history. But the museum was built for another reason, a deeper one. It is a bridge, a place where the present meets the stone-carved faces of the past, where tourists can step out of modern sunlight and into a realm of hieroglyphs, gold leaf, and silent guardians. It is a storytelling stage where Egypt can reclaim and celebrate its narrative. You walk toward a balcony that overlooks a sweeping gallery, and there, through distant windows, you glimpse the pyramids of Giza. They sit on the horizon like three patient giants watching children play. Just 2 kilometers apart, the museum and the pyramids are connected by a new walkway, guiding tourists gently from the ancient world to the modern one. It feels symbolic, as if the pharaohs themselves give you permission to continue. Down below, you notice a stream of visitors moving like grains of sand through glass halls. A family points upward at towering statues, their children wide-eyed. A tour guide whispers facts with reverence, his voice drifting like quiet incense. Exhibits open into immersive wings, each designed to reveal the heartbeat of Egyptian civilization. Tourism has become not only an engine of the economy, but a guardian of memory. Every ticket purchased becomes a promise to protect fragile papyrus, delicate pigments, and wooden artifacts that have survived 4,000 years of wind and silence. You imagine the artifacts themselves sighing in relief as they finally receive the space they deserve, stretching comfortably like cats in sunlight. You pass a small interactive display, glowing softly. Digital maps reveal trade routes, tomb structures, and the shifting sands of dynasties. Children tap gently at the screens, uncovering secrets once buried deep beneath limestone. Technology becomes a gentle translator here, whispering the past into the language of the present. But there is something more subtle in this museum. In every hall, every sculpture, every shard of pottery, you sense pride. Egypt is telling its story on its own terms, shaping a narrative that has too often been scattered across the world. The museum becomes a homecoming. Your footsteps guide you beneath lofty ceilings that arch like temple vaults. The acoustics here swallow sound softly. It feels safe, calm, like the hush inside a tomb, minus the concern of accidentally disturbing a mummy. That would be awkward. As you pause beside a case of tiny faience beads shaped like lotus blossoms, you realize something. No single museum before this one could contain the full weight of Egyptian culture. Not the battles, not the rituals, not the love songs carved into walls, or the humble jars of oil buried for eternity. Here, each object stands beneath the gentle glow of focused light, a spotlight that whispers, "You matter." This museum is not simply a building for tourists. It is a national declaration, a promise to preserve, to educate, to honor. It is Egypt placing its heart on display. You turn, drawn deeper by the soft glow of the next corridor, and you wonder what other secrets wait just beyond the bend. You drift toward a broad window, and the glass reveals a horizon carved by 3 silhouettes worn by wind and time. The pyramids of Giza rise, their angles sharp against a sky that once echoed with the footsteps of thousands of workers. The sight strikes you like a memory you never lived. It feels familiar, ancient, and strangely comforting. The Grand Egyptian Museum was placed here for a reason. Imagine stepping out of a gallery filled with funerary artifacts, and in the same breath, lifting your eyes toward the very tombs those objects once served. Few museums enjoy such intimacies with their origins. It is as if the pharaohs are leaning over your shoulder, whispering, "Look how far we have come." You walk through a hallway lined with amber light. The museum's designers wanted visitors to feel gently guided, not rushed. As you wander, the contrast between ancient stone and modern glass becomes a quiet conversation. The desert presses gently against the outer walls, its golden breath filtering through angled windows. A few patches of sand have gathered outside along the paths, as if the desert refuses to be ignored. Out beyond the glass, you notice a walkway stretching toward the horizon. Newly paved, it is designed to guide pilgrims, tourists, scholars, and dreamers from the museum to the pyramid plateau. In the distance, you can almost hear the shuffle of feet, the excited murmur of voices. It is a symbolic thread stitching ancient and modern worlds together. You imagine walking it at sunset, shadows stretching long, golden rays warming your back. Maybe you would stop for a slice of mango juice along the way. Travel does strange things to cravings. Inside, your path shifts into a wide gallery. Here, stone reliefs tower on either side, carved with marching figures, lotus crowns, and hieroglyphic lines that twist like vines. The air carries a faint mineral scent. Each relief feels like a door. Each door leads deeper into history. As you stand quietly, your thoughts drift to the pyramids outside. Once coated in gleaming limestone, they would have shone like beacons, reflecting the sun's fire. Travelers across the world were guided by their light. Now they sit weathered, but steadfast, their endurance a soft whisper of eternity. To have a museum in their shadow feels like hosting a concert beside the composer's tomb. You sense privilege. You continue through the hall. Panels describe the engineering achievements of ancient builders. Slingstones, copper chisels, leverage, ramps, and thousands of hands moved limestone blocks heavier than your weekly groceries. A feathered touch of humor crosses your mind. Ancient Egyptians were probably not impressed by modern complaints about lifting a couch up 2 stairs. Turn another corner, and suddenly the museum's architecture shifts. Lines angle toward the pyramids, drawing your gaze back outside. The museum does not ignore its neighbors. It bows slightly, offering a respectful tilt. When the afternoon sun reaches the right angle, light spills through the atrium and lands on Ramesses II's statue, threading ancient energy through modern space. The effect is mesmerizing, like the desert itself is offering a blessing. A group of school children passes you, their voices bouncing with excited questions. Their eyes flash with wonder. This environment, bridging landscapes and centuries, creates memories that linger. They look toward the pyramids and toward the exhibits with equal fascination, bridging eras without noticing. One child jokes about aliens building the pyramids, and their teacher laughs gently, explaining how skilled laborers worked with pride, not little green men. Further along, you approach a map carved into the wall. It shows the museum's position relative to the pyramid field. Tombs, temples, causeways. The map breathes context into the halls behind you. This museum is not an isolated island. It is a continuation, a chapter, a footstep following thousands of others. You lean against a railing slightly, letting your eyes wander across the landscape. Visitors outside wander between palm trees planted to soften the desert line. The path toward the pyramids curves gently like a river. It is meant to be walked slowly, thoughtfully. The distance is short, but the journey feels ceremonious. Deep beneath the museum floors, climate-controlled vaults protect tens of thousands of artifacts that once sat vulnerable in storerooms. Now they rest safely, just moments from the monuments that inspired them. There is poetic harmony in that alignment. And then something subtle catches your attention. A mural depicting the Nile. The river's painted curls reflect in polished floors. It reminds you how every pyramid, every carving, every boat and bread loaf depended on that single ribbon of life. The museum honors the Nile's legacy just as the pyramids once did. You step back. Your path is guiding you forward toward deeper chambers filled with stories waiting to unfold. Outside, the pyramids glow brighter as the sun shifts, as if encouraging you onward. Just before crossing into the next gallery, a whispering remembrance surfaces, an invitation. But before we continue tonight's video, if you really enjoy these history stories, please like the video and subscribe. The doorway ahead beckons you into new layers of time and struggle. You take a breath and wander forward. You follow the shifting light into another hall, where quiet panels and softly glowing screens reveal the long and winding journey that brought this museum into existence. It did not rise in a single breath. It was not carved overnight like a magician's trick. The Grand Egyptian Museum was shaped by patience, by paperwork, by politics, and by persistence. You can almost feel the weight of the decades pressing gently against the walls around you. Back in the early 2000s, plans unfurled across drafting tables like papyrus scrolls. Architects debated curves and angles, historians argued for display space, and engineers traced invisible lines of airflow with stern precision. Funding flowed through international partnerships, with Japan's International Cooperation Agency becoming a steady hand, offering financial support and technical expertise. You imagine meetings where polite bowing met strong Arabic coffee, creating a cultural blend as rich as any museum exhibit. Construction crews began to dig, build, and brace. Steel skeletons rose against the bright desert sky. Workers in hard hats moved like ants, their boots kicking up small clouds of sand. Blueprints fluttered in dusty wind. Everything seemed to be moving forward, slow but steady, until the world shifted beneath everyone's feet. Pandemic winds swept across continents like a sudden sandstorm, halting construction sites, freezing supply chains, and forcing workers to step back from their chisels and welding torches. International shipping delayed critical materials. Deadlines curled up like papyrus left in the sun. Corridors meant to echo with visitors instead echoed with silence. For a time, the museum felt abandoned, whispering through empty hallways, waiting patiently like a cat guarding an unopened door. Political tensions in the Middle East created further ripples, tightening budgets, shifting priorities, and casting shadows across long-term planning sessions. Yet, despite pressure, the dream did not dissolve. Engineers returned, curators resumed conservation, and architects lined up once more to ensure this monumental project would eventually open its arms to the world. You pause before a display showing photographs of scaffolding climbing toward skylights. Workers smile, their faces half hidden behind masks and goggles. Their pride is visible even in still images. They knew they were building something larger than brick and steel, something meant to carry the breath of ancient voices into the future. Sometimes projects like this can feel cursed, but this one simply felt tested. And the more it was tested, the more determined it became. You cannot help but smile at the thought. It reminds you of trying to assemble furniture without missing bolts. Except here, the stakes were roughly $1 billion higher. No pressure. Panels highlight cooperation among museums, universities, and conservation institutes. Experts flew in from around the world, sharing knowledge about humidity control, fiber preservation, digital archiving, and artifact stabilization. They traded ideas like precious spices. This museum became a crossroads of skill and science, mirroring the ancient trade routes that once crisscrossed the Nile Valley. As you walk, you notice a model of the museum printed in miniature. Tiny figures indicate visitor flow, sunlight angles, and artifact positions. Every inch was planned with surgical detail. Nothing inside these walls arrived by chance. It is comforting to realize how carefully the past has been cradled. You move onward, past archival footage showing crates being unpacked. Fine brushes sweep centuries of dust from carvings. Scribes once carefully chiseled hieroglyphs, and now gloved hands carefully dust them, bridging 4,000 years of guardianship. In another clip, technicians calibrate digital systems that will protect relics like silent guardians. You tilt your head, impressed. Even statues get better security than your luggage at the airport. A timeline on the wall stretches like a horizontal obelisk. 2008, first major works. 2011, conservation expands. 2016, final construction surges forward. The museum grew like a temple, in pulses, influenced by world events, not immune to time, but resilient against it. You pass into a quieter alcove where visitors linger thoughtfully. There is pride here, not only from Egyptians, but from everyone who touched the project. It feels like a shared declaration that knowledge deserves a home. A final image catches your eye. Cranes lifting massive panels into place, silhouetted against an orange sunset. Workers stand below, tiny but mighty, guiding history into position. Now you understand. This museum is not just a collection of objects. It is a monument to cooperation, endurance, and belief. It tells another story, one carved not in limestone, but in late-night meetings, dusty construction sites, and blueprints that evolved like living organisms. Your steps soften as you exit the hall. Ahead, the museum opens into deeper chambers, ready to reveal how its construction unfolded, phase by extraordinary phase. You step into a gallery where the air feels unusually kind, as if someone has taught it to be polite to ancient wood and papyrus. The museum is clever in the way it protects the past. It borrowed from modern science and a little desert wisdom, folding sunlight into angled shades, reflecting heat away with a broad pale roof, and whispering cool air where fragile linen sleeps. You notice labels that speak softly, cases that glow without glare, and a roof that seems to think ahead. This building earned a rare honor, the EDGE Advanced Green Building Certification, and it did so not as a boast, but as a promise. The certification speaks to careful design that cuts energy use by more than 60% and trims water needs by 34% compared to ordinary structures. Think of it as a promise that the museum will not guzzle the future for the sake of the past. Sustainability here is not decoration. It is integral. External shading holds the harsh sun at bay. Smart meters watch consumption like attentive librarians. Energy-efficient lighting sighs in corners instead of shouting from chandeliers. Water-saving fixtures slip into service quietly, and the reflective roof bounces summer heat back up to the sky. Even the building's orientation reads like a careful sentence. Windows placed to admit gentle light, courtyards cut to invite cooling breezes, and materials chosen to reduce heat gain while still feeling like stone and sand beneath your fingers. There is a quiet pride in that engineering. The museum wears its green credentials like a linen cloak, clean and well stitched. While the building breathes with restraint, its rooms swell with abundance. More than 100,000 relics find a home within these walls. You walk along a corridor, and the artifacts feel like a slow parade, each with its own rhythm. Tiny beads the size of a fingernail sit beside massive stone statues that once gazed over river plains. A wooden toy pulled by an ancient child rests near a golden amulet meant for a queen. The scale here is humbling. It is not merely a collection. It is an entire civilization made visible. Every room is climate guarded, catalogued, and mapped. Conservation labs exchange quiet chatter with exhibit designers. Items are measured, recorded, and cradled in humidity-controlled vaults below the galleries. Here, the team of conservators works like a gentle orchestra, calibrating light levels, choosing mounts that breathe, and ensuring that adhesives and supports are kind to object fibers. The museum cultivated expertise, training a new generation of caretakers who read object surfaces like poetry. You lean in close to a case holding ancient linen and imagine the breath of the past, slowed and kept safe by engineering and respect. Technology hums politely in the background. Digital databases catalog each piece with love and precision, allowing scholars across the world to visit through screens when they cannot cross deserts. Interactive displays let you trace a pottery shard back to its workshop, to the potter's thumbprint, like following a handwriting poem. Yet, despite all the sensors and servers, the experience remains intimate. Light is tuned to the gentlest level that will not fatigue pigments. Displays rotate to limit exposure so colors may dream in the dark between viewings. Even the way visitors move through galleries has been choreographed, encouraging pauses, quiet observation, and a slow rhythm that feels more like an evening walk than a sprint. In places, the museum feels like a vast archive folded into a temple. Shelves and drawers store objects that are not ready for the public light, while nearby galleries display treasures with dignity. It is a balancing act, to reveal and to protect. You pause before a display of tiny amulets and smile at the thought that these delicate things have survived plunder, flood, heat, and the clumsy curiosity of early collectors. They rest now under glass, their secret language preserved. You notice a quiet choreography in the lighting schedules. Some objects rotate into view while others rest. Conservationists schedule those rests like naps, preserving pigments and wood fibers so they may greet another generation. There is a humility in that planning, an understanding that endurance depends on patience, not display. Families move through the halls more slowly for it, and students take notes with thoughtful faces. A few light jokes ease the hush. The museum probably has better air conditioning than your apartment. Its security likely knows more about ancient jewelry value than your bank. And even the statues have a no-touching policy, just a polite sign the kind that would make a tomb polite. You chuckle softly, your laugh absorbed by the hall, and continue walking past rows of cases where small objects rest like dew on a web. Fragile, glittering, impossible to rush. You are aware, as you move, that every careful decision here protects not only the objects, but also the story they tell. Sustainability and preservation are married together in this place. The building saves energy, so the artifacts may keep telling their secrets. And the artifacts give the building a purpose nobler than architecture alone. It is a future-facing shelter for an ancient past. You turn into a quieter hall, the air thinning to a respectful hush. Here, the statues rise like still mountains, carved from time instead of stone. They are tall enough to slow the rhythm of your pulse, gentle enough that you feel no need to whisper. Yet you do anyway. The first face you meet is that of Ramesses II, calm as old sandstone and broad as a sunrise over the Nile. His gaze seems to drift past you, searching for horizons you cannot see. They say he signed the world's first known peace treaty, a handshake carved into clay and memory. And here he stands again, unbothered by centuries. A few steps away, a ramp leads toward the quiet story of Hatshepsut. Her name rests lightly on plaques, but her legacy rests heavy in history. She ruled when others expected her to serve, building temples and trade routes like braids of gold through the desert. Her sculptures show a composed smile, neither triumphant nor apologetic, just steady. You imagine the court whispering, and the same whispers dissolving under her certainty. Farther along, a long gallery keeps a soft spotlight on Akhenaten. His features are different, longer, more curious, almost gentle. He turned the kingdom toward the worship of one sun disk, Aten, and let the light fall in new ways. The walls explain his change like a quiet experiment, a moment when belief grew wings and then folded them again. His story feels like wind, noticeable, brief, then gone. Your footsteps soften further as you enter a chamber lit in amber tones. Voices fall away until you hear only the slow breathing of the building. The glass here curves around objects that seem too delicate to exist at all. Gold leaves, feathers of metal, faint inlays, fading like moonlight on dark water. Beside them stand archivists' notes, small and steady, like gentle hands guiding your eyes. Ramesses, Hatshepsut, Akhenaten, each presence lingers differently. Ramesses stands like a banner that never fell. Hatshepsut sits like a tuned string, held in perfect tension. Akhenaten drifts like incense across a temple floor. Together, they shape the museum's spine, a line of rulers whose decisions echo long after footsteps quiet. You notice tiny chisel marks on one statue's shoulder. They look almost like fingerprints, carved by someone whose name was lost the moment dust touched the floor of the workshop. Yet their work remains, heavier than memory. You lean closer, feeling the weight of time sit politely beside you. Lighting here is deliberate, soft as sighs. It brushes stone with warmth, but never glare. Rooms narrow, then widen, like the pacing of a story meant to calm the mind rather than excite it. You feel your shoulders ease. You breathe deeper. Near one corner, a small placard describes an argument among scholars, whether a certain statue once bore a different crown or showed a different deity. The debate reads like a friendly disagreement between grandparents. No anger, just affectionate certainty. You smile quietly, imagining historians fussing over millimeters the way bakers fuss over grains of sugar. Even the air purification system hums like a distant lullaby. You wonder briefly if the statues prefer this era, where temperature stays polite and humidity never surprises them. If stone could exhale, this might be where it would choose to do so. A quiet bench waits beneath the final figure. You sit, letting the hall breathe around you. The rulers here accomplished wars and peace, temples and treaties, reforms and restorations. But in this moment, they simply rest. Their stories no longer shout. They murmur. The longer you sit, the more your heartbeat joins the museum's rhythm. Slow, measured, even. As you rise to leave, a small, tasteful reminder sign hangs by the exit. No touching the pharaohs. You nod to yourself. Of course, these legends have been through quite enough. The corridor narrows into soft darkness, ready to guide you deeper, quieter, gentler. You follow the soft curve of the corridor downward, where the light turns warmer, like late afternoon drifting through linen curtains. The sound of your footsteps grows muted by carpet so gentle that it swallows echoes whole. Ahead, a gilded icon gleams just faintly, no brighter than a calm thought. This is where the story of Tutankhamun waits, quiet as buried gold. The chamber opens slowly, not with noise, but with awe. Here, more than 5,000 artifacts rest under glass and careful air, finally gathered together after sleeping separately for decades. You move like someone paging gingerly through an ancient journal, afraid to smudge memory itself. Tutankhamun became pharaoh around the time most children today are barely choosing their favorite color. He inherited a kingdom dizzy from his father Akhenaten's religious shift. Temples closed, gods replaced, priests anxious. At 9 years old, he wore a crown heavier than reason. And while his reign was brief, it steadied Egypt like a hand smoothing linen. You pause beside a small golden throne. Its armrests curve into protective serpents, noses slightly tilted as though sniffing the air. The backrest shows the king seated gently while his queen adjusts a collar upon his shoulders. It is domestic, tender, almost sleepy. Moments like this remind you that pharaohs had fidgety mornings and tangled hair too. Nearby, rows of delicate sandals sit in glass trays, their patterns formed from reeds and gold threads. He would have outgrown them quickly. Childhood always races ahead without waiting. You picture a royal craftsman sighing softly as he measured yet another new pair, the same way shoemakers do for restless schoolchildren today. As you drift further, light skims across gilded shrines nested one inside another. You lean closer and see the tiniest etchings. Feathers no wider than eyelashes, petals no taller than a single grain of rice. These artisans carved beauty so small it must have been meant for the god's eyes alone. Then the famous mask. Its blue stripes shimmer in the soft museum glow. Lapis lazuli arcs like endless twilight across the brow. Gold ripples gently around the cheeks. And the eyes, steady, unblinking, stare past centuries, not through you, but through time. They do not boast. They simply remain. You think about the moment in 1922 when Howard Carter peered through a new opening, candles flickering. When asked if he saw anything, he murmured, "Yes, wonderful things." Standing here, you finally understand the understatement. Deeper into the hall, small chests hold toys, carved animals, board games, rattles shaped like cats. Tutankhamun may have been pharaoh, but he was also a teenager who loved laughter. Perhaps he cheated at games once or twice. Most teenagers do, after all. A gentle plaque explains how his tomb was forgotten by shifting sands and haystack houses built above. That forgetfulness preserved him. Sometimes history protects itself by hiding. Your path bends into a quieter alcove where his burial jewelry lies coiled like sleeping serpents. Charms shaped like lotus blossoms promise morning rebirth. Beetle amulets rest upon chests to guard hearts in the afterlife. It feels less like treasure and more like love letters from priests and family. Further along, murals depict ceremonies with music, harps, drums, flutes. You almost hear them. The hall's hush vibrates like distant notes, brushing the tops of your thoughts. For a moment, you imagine dancers moving through torchlight, footsteps soft against temple stone. The final display is more somber, medical scans mapping broken bones and frail limbs. Tutankhamun likely suffered illness throughout his short life. Despite gold and glory, the boy behind the mask woke with aches, limped on bad days, and slept through restless nights. It is strange comfort, realizing even royalty needs rest. You exit the chamber through a narrow hallway lined with shadows. It feels deliberate, a gentle descent from brilliance back into calm. As your breathing slows, the treasures you witnessed settle behind your eyelids like fading stars. Just before the turn into the next gallery, a playful sign whispers, "No, you cannot try on the mask." You grin. Some temptations are universal. And now, the corridor opens again, ready to reveal another ancient marvel. You follow a gently sloping ramp where the air turns cooler, scented faintly with cedar and dust older than memory. The light dims, not into darkness, but into a soft bronze tone, like evening settling over the Nile. Your footsteps quiet as the space widens, and then you see it. A shape curved like the horizon of the sea, long as a forgotten river dream. Khufu's solar boat rests here, suspended above polished floors, its timbers stitched together by ancient hands. 42 meters of wood, rope, and starlight, built to ferry a king across the sky. Its planks are slender, bending like reeds in the wind, yet together they hold centuries without complaint. The museum's engineers cradled it carefully, lifting the vessel from the desert pit beside the Great Pyramid, where time had tucked it away like a secret. You step closer, tracing the arc of its hull with your eyes. Every join is clever, locked by ropes rather than nails, so the wood could breathe in a desert heat. Modern shipbuilders would raise eyebrows at such elegance. Ancient Egyptians would raise eyebrows at modern shipbuilders. A placard whispers that this craft was never meant to sail water. It was built to sail light. Legends say the pharaoh would ride this boat with Ra, guiding the sun from dawn through dusk. You imagine the vessel gliding across a sky of amber, carried by music too soft for waking ears. The hull rises high above your head. You tilt your neck and feel small, in the nice bedtime kind of way. Some designs were never meant for scale. They were meant for awe. Even the museum's careful lighting seems to kneel before it. Along one side, you notice the faint shimmer of resin, sealing wood so it would last forever. Forever is a tricky promise. Yet here it is, echoing across 4,000 years, obeying the oath without flinching. Behind you, a mural blossoms into view. Rowers painted in rhythmic pose, oars dipping into invisible water. They smile softly, as if enjoying the gentle work. You suspect they never rowed at all, but it is comforting to imagine they did. A quiet video screen plays slowly, showing the excavation. Teams brush sand away, grain by grain. One archaeologist sneezes delicately, the universal language of dust. You smile, thinking the desert won that round. You continue along the railing, where small tools once carried aboard sit in glass cases, oars finely carved, rope coils like sleeping snakes, pegs worn by hands you will never know. Their simplicity is hypnotic. No engines, no wires, just physics, faith, and clever woodworkers who probably drank strong tea. The hall narrows, guiding you onward. Quietly, a new display appears, wide maps tracing Egypt's ancient trade routes. Ships crossed seas you might mistake for deserts of salt and foam. Cedar from Lebanon, incense from Punt, copper, gold, linen, all meeting at river ports that hummed with life. The boat begins to feel like more than a vehicle. It feels like Egypt's lungs, breathing goods, breathing culture, breathing stories. Perhaps that is why the pharaoh needed one for the afterlife. A king cannot hold breath forever. You exhale slowly, thinking of all the journeys you have taken, some by road, some by memory, some by hope. Maybe we all need a boat to sail between days. At the exit, a final plaque invites a quiet thought. In every voyage, the destination is not a place, but a transformation. The words settle inside you like warm sand. You turn, taking one last slow look at the solar boat. It does not move, yet it pulls you forward. You walk again, guided by the museum's gentle gravity, and feel yourself drifting toward peace. You walk farther, and the hallway grows wider, softer, quieter, until the colors slow to a calm hush. The floor beneath you feels smoother, almost cloud-like, and the museum's distant hum fades into a single steady breath. It is as if the building itself has lowered its voice, leaning in so you can rest. Your steps drift past dim galleries where artifacts sleep behind glass like stars behind thin clouds. The lighting moves in long, warm waves, stretching shadows in slow motion. Each breath you take becomes deeper, slower, easier. You feel the weight you carried today melt away, grain by grain, like sand slipping calmly through fingers. The air tastes cool and clean, touched by ancient cedar and the quiet dust of deep history. You pause, letting the silence press gently against your shoulders. The world outside, its noise, its pace, its hurry, does not follow you here. In this moment, you are as unhurried as a river at night. You drift past the statues again, but now their faces seem softer, edges blurred by gentle distance. They no longer watch you. They simply rest beside you, guardians of sleep rather than memory. For a heartbeat, everything feels perfectly balanced: light, sound, thought, breath. Ahead, a plaza of marble opens like a calm dream. The roof arches high and wide, catching the faint glow of hidden lamps that glitter like desert stars. Somewhere overhead, an unseen vent whispers a breeze across your skin, cool as Nile water beneath the moon. Your heartbeat matches your steps. Your thoughts slow to a single calm ripple. Eyes grow heavy, gently unfocusing, hazing into a watercolor blur. You reach a quiet bench near the center of the hall. You sit, lowering yourself into the museum's hush, as though sinking into warm linen sheets. There is no rush. Time becomes syrup slow, drizzling through the hall with sweet patience. The treasures you have seen tonight, gold, stone, wood, linen, settle deeper into memory, softened at the edges. Kings drift into shadow. Boats fold their sails. Galleries dim like lanterns near dawn. You close your eyes for a moment and feel the desert wind from 4,000 years ago brush against your cheek. It carries whispers, not words, just intention. just warmth, just quiet permission to rest. Breath by breath, your body loosens. Shoulders uncoil, jaw softens, hands rest open, unconcerned. Your spine settles into a gentle arc, like a crescent carved across a sleepy sky. Somewhere deep inside the museum walls, old wood creaks like a lullaby. It is not a warning. It is a comfort, history tucking itself in beside you. And soon, very soon, the long corridors of thought narrow into a single hallway. One door, one bed, one soft dream waiting. Allow the ancient calm to gather around you like cool cotton. Let the sunboats sail. Let the kings sleep. Let the quiet keep watch. In this final breath before dreams, you are held. You are safe. You are timeless. If you enjoyed this history story, please don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Sweet dreams.